Morning Gateway Youth, and welcome to another Sunday morning session. It's really good to have you watching the video. It's great to catch up with you in Zoom last week as well, and to see your faces, and I really hope that we can see you in person at some point soon as well. So there's another video again this week. It's part of the series that we've been doing, so hopefully you've been latching into that, the series of what God is like. And we've done the first two, which is what God isn't like. He's not necessarily like an old man. He's not a talent show judge. And this week, actually, the talk's turned around. It's flipped around, and it's like what God is like. And today, it's talking about God being like a green-fingered gardener, or green-thumbed gardener. So watch the video, and I'll be back afterwards to have a bit more chat.
Well, we're here at the Chicago River, Chicago landmark, and really it becomes a pretty fun destination every year around St. Patrick's Day because the city dumps millions of gallons of green something into the water to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And I'll be honest with you, it never really loses that color. You know, as we're talking about kind of our images and understandings of who God is and where those come from and how those can be more formed by who He actually is, it got me thinking about green things in my life and how much, honestly, I'm terrible when it comes to growing anything green. I remember I was 13 years old and my family had just moved into a new house, brand new housing development. House was great, beautiful view actually of the entire San Francisco Bay. Everything about the house was new except for the backyard. It was a pretty big backyard, and it must have been honestly like on the house builders, like their last to-do item on an apparently abandoned to-do list. Because in between our beautiful new house and this beautiful new view lay this desolate desert. I mean, there was nothing back there but dirt and weeds. And I would spend the rest of the summer engaging in like hand-to-hand combat with these weeds on their turf, on their terms. It only took one summer for me to learn how much I hate gardening and how little I actually have of a green thumb. Well, what Jesus offers us is a very different image of God. An image of God that actually loves green and loves to grow things. What Jesus does for us is He pulls from the soil of our story an image that everyone could at least relate to, if not understand. Jesus speaks about gardening. It's an image that paints Himself as a vine and you and me as the branches that grow from that vine, and His Father God as the gardener. The power of this image, honestly, I think has to be explored if we're ever to understand our green-thumbed gardener God and why He wants each of us to grow. Now, after all, if you think about it, the image is pretty powerful because it was in a garden that our story began, where humanity was hand-planted by God and rose from the fresh soil of creation. And it's there in the garden, actually, that God tended to Adam and Eve and nurtured them with His care and His love. Jesus gives us this image of a God with dirty fingernails and hands. Hands that plant and water and weed and prune. Hands that are intimately familiar and unafraid of the dirty soil of this world, of our lives. Jesus shows them who they are, or rather, He shows them who they are in relationship to the Father and the Son. This is our job when it comes to how we relate to our green-thumb gardener God. He says, "Remain in me, as I also remain in you." No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I'm the vine. You're the branches. That's you and me. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear what? Much fruit. You will bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing. Our job couldn't be any simpler. All we have to do is stay. Stay. It is amazing to me how I struggle and strive and stray when all I've ever been asked to do is stay. Promise is clear. Stay with me. Connect to me, drawing your life from me, and you'll not only grow, but you'll bear fruit. You are actually supposed to bear fruit. You were created by God to grow and bear fruit. You have something of worth and wonder to give to this world. You are not supposed to be the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That's God's job. Your job is to grow and give of yourself the life that's been given to you. Now, Jesus goes on to say this in John 15:8. This is really important. He says this, "This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples." In other words, not only were you created to grow, but you were created to bear fruit. Not only were you created to bear fruit, but your fruit is meant to be a gift to this world that points back to the work of a good gardener in your life. But there's also a warning, and it's as clear as the promise. Jesus said, "Stray from me, and you'll find your life empty and disconnected and ultimately fruitless." That you and I cannot and will not grow on our own. It's only by the hand of the gardener, connected to the vine of Jesus, within the safety of the garden, that we actually can grow, that we're meant to grow. To expect otherwise is to be disappointed and disconnected from the life that you were created to live. Connectedness starves my selfishness. My self-will and your self-will and determination will always believe that we're kind of better off on our own, away from kind of the confines of the garden, free from the hand of the gardener. Our self-centeredness will always convince us that it's all about us, it's all about me, right? Instead of offering the fruit of my life to the world, we'll take whatever we think we need from whoever we think we can get it from. Left to ourselves, we will break off from the vine and inch our way away from the gardener and go outside of the garden, where we will most certainly die. Or at the very least, not live the life God created you to live. So despite our unspoken assumptions, we don't find God as sort of the puppet master that we might have imagined, manipulating and controlling our lives, void of freedom and life and will. But rather, Jesus introduces us to a God who walks through the garden of this world, lovingly cultivating and crafting a space for us to do what we are actually created to do, which is to grow. This gardener knows and cares for every single branch. Every single branch. He never stops. He knows when and where to care, to weed, to prune. He is the one who does the work. A branch cannot see the full scope of the garden. A branch can't control any one of the elements of life. A branch can't will its way to grow on its own. A branch can't even survive on its own. It lives and grows and bears fruit only by the hand of the gardener, connected to the vine, which is Jesus. So why then do I always try and take care of myself? Why do I work so hard? We work so hard to create and protect a life for ourselves on our own terms, by our own efforts. Why do words like love and joy and peace, patience and kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, the fruit of the Spirit, why these so oftentimes just seem like good ideas than actual realities that flow from our lives. Why do we find it so hard to trust the one who planted us and who knows us and who longs for us to grow? Why won't we just stay? Could it be that we've maybe missed the God of the green thumbs? The God that Jesus trusted to guide and guard and shape his every decision, his every relationship, his every day, his very life. Could it be that all of our striving and struggling to craft and create a life for ourselves in the shallow soil of our self-will and determination has left us honestly more empty and lifeless than we could have imagined? Could it be that you've forgotten to just simply stay? Stay in the presence of God. Stay connected to him. Could it be that God is actually inviting you right now to stop, literally, stop, sit, stay, to trust, to plant yourself deeply and to wait and watch as he does in your life what he's been doing all throughout human history? Like, isn't it time, students, for you to come to your gardener God and offer back to him the life he promised could be yours? Will you do just about the only thing that you and I actually can do? Will you stay connected to God and let him be exactly who he says he is?
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that vid. So I've got a question for you. Think about it for a moment. How much of your life involves God? Do you think about God often? Or just a bit? Do you talk to him regularly? Or does life get so busy and filled up with so many things that God gets put on the back shelf? Maybe you try hard. You try hard to be close to God, but then you feel disappointed because you feel like you're not doing enough, or you're not doing things often enough. Well, that picture of God as a green-fingered gardener shows a picture of a God who wants to grow you, who plants you, who wants to nurture you. And there is that image that Jesus taught us of the vine and the branches. He said, I am the vine and you are the branches. And through keeping just close to Jesus, keeping close to God, if that's just our job, all we need to do is to stay, to remain in him. And he does the hard work, the gardening, and we grow. So, yeah, I just want you to think about that and think, what does that look like? We don't necessarily need to strive. We probably need to put some good practices in our lives, but just to keep in Jesus. And then it talks about that picture. Our branches will grow, and I don't know if you thought about this before, but I thought about it as I was listening to this. Is like sometimes you see a plant that grows, like grass is a good example. Grass grows, isn't it? And then what do? We chop the grass down before it's had a chance to bear fruit, because we want it to look short. It looks nicer short for us, but we are not to be chopped down before we've had the chance to bloom, to blossom, and then to bear fruit. And that's what Jesus wants for your life too. As the gardener, Jesus wants your life to bear fruit, to grow and to bear fruit. So there's questions today on today's talk about your personal growth, how you've grown in the last little bit, and then sort of what kind of fruit that you've grown. And the fruit that we're talking about here is not that I expect you all to grow apples out of your ears, or oranges from your shoulder. What we're talking about is the fruit of the Spirit. And that fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And have you grown in those things? And then after that, so is your character becoming, is the fruit of your growth in Jesus, your character changing, and it's the fruit of your growth in Jesus is how you're able to speak to others about him, and how much you're able to influence others as well. So yeah, I just pray that today would be a chance for us all to kind of think again about what God wants to do in our lives, and give him that opportunity as we just abide in him, as we just remain in him, and he can grow and do his thing through us. Bless you all. Pray you have a great week, and that you'd keep these words in mind, and that you'd pray, and that you'd know God's presence with you this week. And look forward to seeing you again next week. Hopefully we'll Zoom again next week. All right, see you guys.